What's up, everybody? Couch Rose here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And after patch 3.03, we got to break down a tier list, and we're going to be doing it based on pro pick rate and changes that have been happening behind the scenes to the meta. So let's talk about what is the best character to the worst character in order in our agent tier list. Let's waste no time and jump right in. Now, let's start off with the most dominant agent right now. Would undoubtedly be the strongest, highest pick rate agent, and it's none other than Sova. Now, Sova will see a ton of pick rate in pro matches on every single map besides Split. He's just insane for retake, he's insane for information, his ultimate is amazing, and yeah, he's just a really phenomenal character, but unfortunately on Split, he is a little bit underpowered, but there are other characters that you could learn to potentially fill that void. A character that I would highly suggest always might be a little bit different, but Raze has a huge pick rate on specifically Split, so she could be a character that you can learn along with Sova as someone who can help you fill that void on that specific map. The next character that we gotta talk about, our top duelist, is definitely Jett. Now, Jett is going to be completely dominant on the majority of maps, Ascent, Icebox, Haven, and Breeze in particular. Bind and Split, you still see some play, but not quite as dominant. Now, for ranked, Jett is an absolute powerhouse. Capable of off-angling, she can take an off-angle, get a quick kill, dash away. Capable of opping better than any other character. Her knives make her the best eco character. Honestly, for ranked, she's just one of the best characters you could pick if you just want a hard carry, if you are legitimately better than everyone in that lobby. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about who's on the up and up, and it's actually Viper. Now, unfortunately, Viper did get hit a little bit in this recent patch 3.03. Now, she no longer gets to activate where her cursor is for her ultimate. It has to be right on her. So you're gonna have to be a little bit more careful to take entire site control before you pop that ultimate, or else you could get mowed down right away. Now, specifically on maps like Icebox, Bind, Split, and Breeze, Viper is insane, and Icebox and Breeze, she just has like a maxed out pick rate. Now, unfortunately, Haven and Ascent, she doesn't see that much play, and there are other characters like Astra and Omen that pick up that slack on those specific maps, so that's just something to keep in mind. Maybe you want to just play her anyways in your ranked games, that's definitely fine, or maybe you want to play more optimally and you want to play Viper on some maps and Omen on the others. That's your personal preference for you controller mains. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about is our fourth best character based on pick rate, and that's Sage. Now, Sage has a stacked pick rate on Icebox, a pretty high Split pick rate, and a decent Breeze pick rate, but most of the other maps, not so much. Now, the primary reason why she's so good on both Icebox and Split is her mid control. You gotta think about Tube. She can wall off Tube and control that area very well, and that is incredibly powerful. Plus, the long rotates means that she's just gonna get more value out of her heal, more value out of her res. And then if you think about Split, being able to hold down mid Split is pretty hard, if I'm being honest, and it's the most important part of the entire map. The people who control that have so many options for rotation, whether that's rotating to B heaven, A heaven, rotating back through sewers. There's just so many damn options there, but Sage can delay a rush for that position between her wall and her double slows, so an amazing character to play on those maps for sure. The next character that we gotta talk about is Omen. Omen has a lot of pick rate on Ascent, Haven, Bind, Split, not so much on Icebox and Breeze because, yeah, Viper just takes that spot. Now, Omen's a fine character and he's a fine controller, but he's going to be favored on some maps where he has very specific choke points he can smoke off, but on huge maps with giant sight lines and giant choke points like Icebox and Breeze, it's going to be pretty difficult to get the maximum amount of value out of his smokes. Now, if you want to still play him, there's two things you could do. One, just use your smokes to create tactical advantages around a spike plant or defuse, whether that means smoking off the direct swing angle or smoking off the spike to try to defuse. Or, as a general rule of thumb, you can try to lurk more on Omen. Your smokes are going to have a little bit less impact, but you can still get impact in other ways, trying to make some really insane lurks, or like smoking the mid choke on Icebox, for example, and then walking up through, and you could potentially wrap all the way through Kitchen or something like that, and be a little crafty there. Now, the next characters that we got to talk about are actually Killjoy and Cypher, about at the same pick rate, if I'm being honest, and these characters are kind of like yin and yang. They both occupy a very similar void. And honestly, personal preference is going to be huge here, but as a general rule of thumb, Cypher is going to like it better if the choke points are a little bit more narrow and people are going to be routing through those narrow choke points. And Killjoy is going to be a little bit better when there's more wide open space because their turret can gather more information about a larger area overall. Now, that doesn't always hold true because Killjoy definitely plays better into a Viper composition because the retake ability, it's very cool to be able to retake with lockdown, plus the smoke walls, especially for ranked. But like I said, personal preference, you can play either of these. It's really going to depend on you, as we see pro players like Dapper really flock specifically to Cypher and only playing Cypher, and pro players like Steel only playing Killjoy. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about on the list based on pick rate is definitely Skye. Skye is just becoming insane. She's a character that is incredibly powerful, but you gotta learn a couple of things if you wanna be good at her. One, you gotta learn how to pop flash, which is the second an enemy sees the bird, it's already popped and they have no time to react to it. And if you don't do this right, you're gonna hear the sound, you're gonna peek an enemy, but they didn't get flashed enough, they turned around, and they're gonna be able to kill you. Now, the next thing that you gotta do is mix it up with your aggressive flashes. Pop, flash, peek, or throwing out a bird and not popping it at all, only to swing an enemy who's looking like a fucking idiot and turning around. That's always amazing. Skye's a character that can take matters into her own hands, but she wants to also balance being a little bit aggressive sometimes with gathering information, healing for her team, helping retake. There's a lot that she has to do. You don't want to be throwing your life away for free, and she can be a pretty difficult character to master, but she's definitely worth it in this meta. Now, let's talk about the next character on the list, which is Astra. Astra's still fine on maps that are not Icebox or Breeze. That's basically Split's territory, and she's definitely a replacement for Omen, but it really depends on your personal preference. I do think that her stats are going to be a little bit bolstered here because she's better in rank than she is in freaking just, you know, comp. But if you have a dual partner that will play off your utility, her abilities are still nuts. Having one suck be able to potentially completely stop a rush that happens a lot in comp is amazing, but you still want people to be able to play off your utility, and that might not always be the case if you're solo queuing, but it's your own personal preference. Same thing with the Cypher Killjoy. It's kind of what's happening with Astra Omen. You have a lot of agency to pick what you want to play here. Now, the next character we got to talk about is Raze, who has fallen quite out of favor, but she's still absolutely fucking amazing on Bind and Split. Now, speaking of what's amazing, the GameLeap website is, so just go check it out right now down below if you want to dominate your games. Now, going back to the video, basically, she has become a character that is very good on some maps and not so great on others. And this is going to happen as the game progresses. Character skill sets are going to flock to the differences in the map pool, and that's kind of what's happening here. She's amazing on Split for taking that mid area, very good at gathering information with her boom bot there, or clearing out all these crazy cubbies that enemies could hold into, and then Bind with the teleporters, with the mobility, with the choke points like hookah and showers. Yeah, she's just insane on those maps, so you can go about this two different ways. In ranked, you can play her on every single map. It doesn't even matter because she's one of those characters that has a very high conversion to skill to actually being able to carry, and that's amazing for a specific ranked environment. But if you want to, you could also just play her only on Bind and Split, and that's perfectly fine too, and you can play another character if you want to. It's really gonna be up to your personal preference. Now, the next character we gotta talk about is KO, and KO's doing all right. He has decent pick rate on Ascent and Haven, a little bit of pick rate on Bind and Split, not so much on Icebox and Breeze. Now, KO's an interesting one because he does gather information and he can also duel a little bit. He's like a dueler initiator hybrid. The problem with him in pro play is you just want more information from someone like a Sova if you're trying to be that role. And if you're trying to be a duelist, you want to play a character that can just duel better, not someone who's kind of like a jack of all trades, kind of like that middle area. But for ranked, that's kind of perfect. So really, I think that he's a lot better in ranked than he is in these pro statistics, but it's going to be dependent on whether or not you like the feel of his flash, whether or not you feel like you can get impact based on his ultimate. And yeah, it's going to depend on a lot of these factors, but if you could learn some of those plus a little bit of lineups with his knife and his grenade, I definitely think that you're going to like the character a lot in your ranked games. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about, getting to like the bottom of the barrel here, but this is for ranked, so I'm gonna make that clear because Reyna is all the way down here. Very little pick rate, only sees that much play on Icebox, and on no other map does she see that much pro pick rate. Now, Reyna is also like the best character to carry with in ranked, so it's very weird here where you see, hey, she's not picked that much, but she's actually nuts. What is the truth? Well, the truth is she's a character that converts your skill into SR. That's it. That is like basically what Reyna does. If you're better than the enemy, you're gonna win. That's kind of how it is. She's a character that really can enable a lot of crazy rushes that work perfectly in ranked. She's a character that can take basically a whole bunch of 1v1v1v1s at max HP. And yeah, she's an amazing character for all those reasons. And if you don't want to rely on your teammates at all, and you would rather put every game in your backpack and it's all on you whether you win or lose, then yeah, Reyna's probably the perfect character for you. But you're probably also not watching this tier list because you're playing Reyna right now. Now, the next character we got to talk about is Phoenix, who is basically seeing no pick rate in pro play. Actually, the next three are seeing no pick rate: Phoenix, Brimstone, Breach. And then we gotta talk about, is this because of pro matches or is this just the character is bad? Well, Phoenix is actually great. Phoenix is fantastic for ranked play. Definitely a character that kind of fits into that KO, jack of all trades strategy, where he's not the most optimized duelist if you're like, you have someone on your team that is specifically being paid to play duelist, right? You want like someone who can have the most impact and people fill in roles like an assembly line. You don't need a jack of all trades, but for ranked, that's amazing. For ranked, he provides so many different things that you could need in any given situation, whether that's, you don't have a great controller, so you need to LOS the sightline, split it up with your flame wall and take point. You can heal yourself so you have a little bit of sustain. You can retake with your ultimate and you're almost always guaranteed a kill if you play that correctly. There's a lot to love about the character, and I think he's perfectly fine to play, even if he's not really high on this tier list. Now, Brimstone, I don't think that he's a controller that you should really be playing in his current state, unless you are just filling. If you are filling, you don't know how to play controller, but you want to fill to have a good team composition, that's up to you. I think Brimstone is the best, because he's really easy to play, and he's really straightforward, and yeah, the list goes on and on, but if you're trying to, play the most powerful controller, Viper is going to be insane on a select number of maps. And for the other maps, between Omen and Astra is probably where you want to be at. And then last up is Breach. Breach is a very interesting character because I think he's really just not hitting the mark, mainly because of Skye. Skye is a character that can do almost everything that Breach can do, but a little bit better. And if you're gonna play Breach, I think that Skye is just the better of the two choices. Now, that being said, I do think that Breach's ultimate is a little bit better, which is definitely saying something. But ultimately, he is going to be like the worst character right now, because not only is he the least picked in pro matches, he should be artificially inflated in pro matches because he's better with synergy, which you're gonna get even less of in ranked matches. And sure, you could dominate with him. I know you can, but I think that you could dominate even more as a competent Skye. And you're also gonna be gathering information, being able to heal your team and help your team, in addition to being able to flash and set up these flash plays. So yeah, definitely let me know what you think about this tier list right now in the comments down below. Do you agree, disagree? At what characters do you want to see move up the ladder? And do you think any characters need nerfs? Let me know down below. But thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go to the GameLeap website right now, and I'll see you next time.